A warm welcome, dear Dovies, to another episode of the Diary of Volunteers on Earth, hitchhiking edition. I am in Iran at the moment, recording this out of the city of Isfahan. And let me just tell you real quick that I have loved every single bit of traveling through this country so far. And I am very happy and very honored, really, to be recording my first episode with somebody from Iran. In this case, it's Ali, who I met at the hostel that I was staying in Tehran. Normally, I have been hitchhiking, or I shouldn't say normally, but mostly I've been hitchhiking, but in Tehran I treated myself to a hostel, the Heritage Hostel to be specific, and it was a great decision. I had a really good time there. Also a huge shout out, and just to let you know, this is not a sponsored ad. I'm just mentioning them because I really enjoyed my time with the Heritage Hostel in Tehran. It was just a completely spontaneous idea to record this podcast, but more on that later. First, a little bit of housekeeping, and as always, I'm gonna start with thanking my sponsors of this podcast on the road. That is the insurance company Dr. Walter. I went with Dr. Walter because they offer a travel and international health insurance that covers everything that a traveler like myself, a backpacker, a hitchhiker might need and might wish for. They have two suitable and tailored around people like me insurances. That's probably not a nice sentence, but I don't care. One of them is called Pro Trip World and the other one is just called Pro Trip. The insurance that I have also includes an assistance insurance and a liability insurance, which can also be really, really helpful in case you get involved into an accident or in case you do something else, you damage something accidentally where you might be held liable. Check out the information of Dr. Walter in the show notes, in the descriptions. Make sure that you consider getting an insurance with them if you plan your next backpacking trip, if you plan your trip around the world, if you plan to hitchhike, volunteer somewhere, do an au pair year somewhere in the world. I can only highly recommend to go with them. And that is pretty much everything on housekeeping, I think, for this week. Actually, we're gonna keep it short, just as this podcast episode, because like I said, none of this was planned. I just came to the hostel, arrived there in Tehran, and after checking in and getting all my stuff sorted, just asking the reception whether they have volunteers there. And Ali, he was just overhearing the conversation, and he approached me and says, yeah, he has volunteered in hostels before here in Iran, and he also knows of a website running on Instagram in Iran that helps hostels and other institutions to find volunteers online. And he happily agreed to talk to me about that, his experiences, also his experiences hitchhiking on the podcast. And as a second part, he also talked about his own venture and his own podcast, because Ali is an expert on coffee. And if you love coffee, if you love Farsi, if you would like to learn how to say some things about coffee in Farsi, I can highly recommend checking him and his podcast out. You can find him at Ali Alavi on Instagram. That is ALIALAVI. And before I start blabbering on, I give you the Dove podcast, the Diary of Volunteers on Earth with Ali. Whatever. It's gonna be fine, I think. I hope. We'll see. We're in the beautiful yard of a hostel. Let's just leave it unnamed, just in case. Of a hostel in Tehran. On the carpeted seating area. And I'm here with Ali. Hello.
Hello again. I don't know what we should talk about. I know the purpose of this podcast, but I don't know what we should discuss in this podcast.
We'll get there eventually.
Okay.
I just want to give the people a little bit of a background information. that
Okay.
we didn't plan any of this.
Of course we're not.
You
I
just
think-
agreed to doing this.
I think it's better if we don't plan it. Should I start to introduce myself?
Yeah, tell us your story.
Let me start with the purpose of volunteering. Why I love to volunteering in hostels, and when it starts. You know, about 7 or 6 years ago, I started hitchhiking in Iran because somehow free for transporting, and I can save much more money and travel more in this country. And about 2 years ago, I found the Instagram page that showed me how to be volunteer in hostels for free and stay for free and see much more cities of Iran without paying anything for hostels or for even food. You know, it's good for me because in those days I don't make much money and I love to travel and see other cities of Iran. And when I found out there's a volunteering thing about the hostels and about somehow like hostels-like places, we call them boomgardi in Persian. Boomgardi in Persian.
Okay.
It translated to local discovery. These are the traditional houses.
Like guest houses of
Guest
some
house,
kind
yes,
that people
exact-
own privately and they just invite.
Yes, exactly. Guest houses with traditional interior of those sections of Iran. And I tried it first in hostels called, I don't remember the name. It was in Shiraz. It was a traditional interior like Shirazian house. I've been there for about 2 weeks, and you know the.
Do you remember how you found out about that opportunity? Like that's actually possible to volunteer in guest houses and to volunteer in hostels? Did somebody tell you, or how did you find out?
No, I found the page like volunteering something in Iran. I found the page on Instagram, and I asked them about how it works, and I just read the caption about the post they posted about like something like hostel names, like details, like hostel names, like you should at least be here for a week. What's the work you have? What's the profession we need? Like we need to paint the walls. We need a reception. We need a cook. We need something like this. We need a waitress or waiter, something like this for this location. And we provide a single room or a shared room. We provide lunch, dinner, or something like this, or whatever they have. And the location is all in the caption of every post they posted. And
That's the one that you sent me on Instagram?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so I will put that in the show notes so
Yes,
people
yes,
can check
yes,
it out
you
if they
can.
want.
Exactly. Of course, it's in Persian.
Yeah.
All the text in Persian, but they can use auto-translate if they want.
Do you think it would be possible for foreigners to volunteer in hostels?
Exactly, because when I was being a hostel in Shiraz, another volunteer is from France.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and we work on shifts. We work together. We stay in a room together. Of course, you can be a volunteer as a foreigner. I think for hostels it works, but I don't know if like guest houses can accept that. I don't know. You should ask first, and that's it. That's all I can remember.
Do you remember, or how do you feel about that today? Like, would you still go back to volunteering, or do you feel like now you're not in your young years anymore? This was 6 years ago. That something has changed.
You know, but I love to try it again if I have free time, because I see it as an opportunity for free staying and free traveling in other cities, like Workaway or something like this. I think it's an opportunity for people that don't have much money on them and don't want to spend a lot of money for traveling and see other part of the country. I think it's an opportunity, and I love to try it again
Yeah.
when I have in my free time.
That's something that we've talked about on past podcasts. Actually, the last one that I recorded in Turkey, but also on other podcast episodes, something called voluntourism. You know, that people, they volunteer and they combine it with tourism. So they get to see places and they get to volunteer. And we actually talked about it in a little bit of a critical way, that sometimes you don't know if you are actually supporting the people there or if you're maybe even hurting the economy by doing that sort of volunteer tourism.
You mean you're hurting the body of the tourism of that country?
Yeah, if we were talking about the thing that you should be aware of why you want to volunteer before you go there, and not just to go there to get it for free and stuff like that. How do you feel about that?
I don't know, I didn't heard about volunteerism.
Okay.
I don't know what it is and what it means. I never heard it before. Mm-hmm. But it's for every person it's a different view.
Sure.
A person can be a volunteer to help others. I will be a volunteer in hostels to save more money. It's a different view. Everyone can have their own opinion about this. And I think mine is less spiritual and more like about money and
more opportunistic.
Yes, exactly.
That's okay.
It's okay. I think it's okay.
No judgment.
Because I think it's okay for the hostels and volunteering in hostels because you work in equal to be staying for free.
Yeah.
I think for hostels it's the best view. Of course, I do volunteering I do painting in orphanage for disabled childs for free. I don't get anything. I don't get promoted. I don't ever mention a name or mention it anywhere because I love to do that for the childs.
Nice.
Because I used to paint, but for the hostels.
So that's a more spiritual side of the whole thing. If you did that, you only did it because you wanted to do something good.
Yes. I don't ask for anything because I know I don't get it and I do it for myself. Mm-hmm. But for the hostels, I think...
No, it's totally fine. I think it's actually, you're creating a win-win situation, you know?
Yes, exactly. It's two-way wins.
Yeah. The hostel wins because they get cheap labor.
Yes, exactly.
Or
cheap
free labor.
Free labor. They don't have to pay for the reception.
Yeah.
They don't have to pay labor to someone.
Yeah.
They can do it for less than 1/3 of the price because it's when they have a free room, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Because the volunteer clean their own room and clean the other guest rooms also, and. The lunch, the dinner, and the breakfast is nothing. Yeah. Because for the breakfast, they always, if they have a free service breakfast, they always leftovers. Mm-hmm. Because no, exactly. In the fridge, they always leftovers, and I think it's a win-win, and it's good for both ways.
Yeah. So that was mainly the activities that you were doing when you were volunteering, was basically helping to clean up, helping to prepare the breakfast and some of the other food, or did you also work at the reception?
Because they don't let volunteers do the reception.
Yeah.
Because they're connecting with the money. Mm-hmm. I think that's
and also
the
because it's complicated. That's what they were explaining here.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
They do the labors like making breakfast, cleaning the rooms, show the rooms, and something like this.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I want you to tell me about your passion and your own podcast, because I'm not the only person in this podcast who has a podcast. So let us know what you're all about.
I think I don't introduce myself as a coffee trainer. As you know,
yeah.
I work in the coffee field in about 9 years. I do teach coffee to other people.
I wanna start with, how did you get into that?
I see another teacher in the coffee field, an Iranian coffee teacher, that starts making a podcast. I think about it. It's a good way to introduce myself to others. It's free to others. It's easy for me to make one. And, You know, for the first time when I start teaching, I was a shy guy, so it's easy for me because I don't have to show my face, and it's just a sound.
Yeah. And you have a lovely voice.
Oh, thank you. I started as a coffee. The name was Coffee in Simple Language. I think I published 3 episodes. I have 4 another episode recorded, but I don't have the time to edit it and publish it. And I left it about 2 months ago.
Okay.
Left the production, but I have the supplies to make another one, and I'm planning to make more episodes to make people love coffee, because it's helped me to teach more people, and it's helped me to talk to more people about coffee, because when the knowledge of coffee growing into economy, and the people, they know more about coffee, they love coffee, I can talk about coffee to everybody. So it's enjoyable for me.
How did your passion with coffee start?
You know, about 10 years ago, and about 9 to 10 years ago, my friend, I start to meet somebody. Now he's my closest friend, and he was just starting a coffee shop. I used to go there, and day to day I used to help them more and more as I learn about coffee, and I learn about coffee shops, and be a waiter or something like this. I used to work them as a volunteer, as a help, as a friend, and I used to love. I'm starting to love coffee and social life as a coffee shop owner. And after that, about 8 months after that, my brother started a coffee shop and invited me to help him.
This was all here in Tehran?
No, I was in the city called Abadan in southwest of Iran. My brother started a coffee shop. I started learning it from YouTube and books, and that's where I start to learn about coffee, because I love to learn anything, and as you know, coffee has no end, because it's growing, the knowledge is growing every day.
Yeah. What's the best? Actually, I was asked this question. I was a guest on a different podcast. Shout out to Mit Milch und Zucker. They are 2 women from Austria who are recording their own podcast, and they always start the podcast with the question, what was the best coffee you've ever had? I'm gonna steal this question from them. I hope they don't mind.
Okay. Once I had a competition series coffee from a champion of Iran. It was a coffee from Sudan Rome. Sudan, exactly.
Wow.
I don't remember the variety, but you know, it tastes like mango.
Whoa.
Without any additional like any infusion with mango. The taste and the flavor of mango, it's because of the compounds in the coffee, like sugars, like acids. It's like an flavor imposter. Mm-hmm. It's not a flavor, like you don't taste mango, but it's somehow flavor notes. It reminds you of mango. It was very bright and very delicious. Mm-hmm. I think it's also the most expensive coffee I tasted. It was about, I don't know, about $2,000 a kilogram.
Holy shit.
Yes, it was a competition series.
Yeah.
And of course, the competitor does not win with that coffee.
Really?
Yes, because it's overtimed in the competition. If it wasn't overtimed in the competition, I'm sure it will be the winner. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Sudan Rome is the best coffee I tried.
Okay. All right. What's your favorite bird?
I think it's Costco, the bird that talks.
Costco. What's the wait? Which like a parrot?
Yes. The gray parrot.
Gray parrot.
With a red tail.
Nice. Is that what you have?
Yes, with
your haircut like that?
Yes. The bird has a crown, and that's it. I think it's my favorite.
Nice. Bro, thank you so much. So, I hope you enjoyed this shorter than usual Dove entry, but I think it was nonetheless very interesting. If you want to hear a gray parrot talking, this is what they sound like.
Ooh, let the birds out. Chirp, chirp, chirp. I'm a bird. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do.
Let me finish with just pointing you towards how to support this podcast if you like. I'm trying to keep it as ad-free as I can. Like I said, Dr. Walter, the sponsors of this podcast, are an exception. Other than that, I don't really want to advertise things on this podcast. So one of them is my Patreon page, which you can also find in the show notes. There I have 3 different subscription levels or tiers. It starts at, I think, $4.20, €4.50, something like that. If you feel like that is too much of a commitment, I totally understand. I don't want to have more than 3 active subscriptions either at a time. But you can also just throw some money in my digital tip jar by just throwing a couple of bucks in there via PayPal. You can also find that link in the show notes. And with that, I am going to say goodbye, and until next time, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to share this with your friends if you like it. Make sure to subscribe on Spotify or also on YouTube. There you can also find some vlogs. None lately because I haven't been able to upload them from Iran, but hopefully again in the future. And with that, all the best. Much peace and love. Jakob.